Hello everyone, and welcome to Game Audio Systems Design with Unreal Engine 5, Chapter 2, Soundscape. As of Unreal Engine 5.1, we now have access to a very powerful audio tool right in Unreal Engine 5, which is called Soundscape Plugin. Now, I'm not going to get into detail of how you can set up and use the Soundscape plugin. I will, as always, just put some resources on the link section of this video, but I will just show you how I set up my soundscape for this project, what kind of assets I used, how I set them up in the meta sounds level as well. So let's start. Before we go ahead, let's first listen to the soundscape a little bit.
I can't believe I survived that.
Okay, so as you can hear, there are a lot of layers ongoing, and some of these sounds are like one-shots, like this, the fire sound. But most of the stuff in here and throughout the level are directly coming from the Soundscape plugin. So in Soundscape plugin, basically you can set up different states, and my base state is this one. So when we open the Soundscape palette, we can take a look at the colors inside of it. And I have only two like base colors, which is the wind and the snow. So the great thing about Soundscape is you can create a really dense and varied audio environment really quickly, because you can change a lot of values like the volume, the pitch, and the fade in and out values really easily of every color. And also when you go inside the colors, like for the wind color, for example, there are a bunch of values that you can easily randomize and choose whatever fits you best, like the spawn distance, etc. And of course also the modulation behavior and like the randomizing volume of pitch, etc. So in addition to that, in addition to using, like trying to take advantage of like the spawn distances and number of spawn elements in various soundscape states that I used, we can take a look at the meta sounds. For example, this wind meta sound. As you can see, it is not that like super complicated meta sound structure. It's just basically an array of two wind like open field howls, and I'm just using a basic low shelf filter as well. And after that, just putting it onto a high shelf. So basically just a fancier and less efficient way of doing bandpass if you must. So yeah, but basically this is just one sound that you can vary inside this. And the second one is the snow. And if you go into the snow, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It has more layers. We have particles in addition to the snowfall. And again, also doing a bunch of pitch randomization inside the meta sound as well. Just only putting part of this meta sound, like the snow particles, from a biquad filter. That is actually just like a high pass filter. And then sending all of it to the mixer as always. Nothing fascinating here. So the most beautiful part of the Soundscape plugin, when you create, so usually when you create a Soundscape palette, you should also give it like playback conditions. So as of, I am not sure if it's 5.1 or 5.2, but as of one of the newest versions, and this project is on 5.2, that if you do not give any playback conditions to your Soundscape palette, it basically plays everywhere inside your level. So, and that is what I wanted here, because this is the base soundscape. Like everything else is basically added on top of that. For example, the crash site, maybe it was audible just a tiny bit. That the crash site in here, where the starship crashed, there are a few sounds here that are like one-shots, but are not actually embedded in the 3D space, like these fire crackling sounds. And the way I access them is by using this specific crash site palette. And as you can see, this only plays when you hit this specific condition, basically when you have these tags. And the way you set them up, like you can set them up in different ways from blueprints and C++. The way I did it in the level blueprint, basically, by loading a collection. Again, I'm not going to go into the super details of the Soundscape plugin, but basically you can load your collections from the beginning and also define them in the project settings. And basically what I'm doing is when you're overlapping, like when your player is overlapping, for example, in this case with an audio gameplay volume, which I'm also going to talk about in another chapter. And when I'm overlapping, basically, with the crash site trigger, I'm just setting the state to this Soundscape Mountain crash site. So basically, when I do this, our bass sounds do not stop playing because I did not put that condition here. Like, I could have also chosen that. But it is playing in the background with this added on top of it. And this basically have some metal movements, which are, again, highly varied in modulation behavior, and also spawn behavior, as you can see. And again, I'm using another patch I created here previously because nobody wants to keep creating this structure 10 times. And yeah, in here you can see I have 3 different layers, like the metal rattling and a scrape sound and a swing sound. Yeah, there are of course like mixing adjustments and also pitch shift adjustments, etc. in here as well. But aside from varying it inside the meta sound, you can also add even more randomized behavior with your spawn and like modulation. The important thing, if you want your sound to be heard in the 3D space in a localized way, you still need to apply attenuation. For example, this is my Soundscape color attenuation, which I apply to all the other Soundscape modules. And basically you can choose, like I didn't choose the occlusion, for example, because I did not calculate visibility, etc. So you can basically choose any of these things, but if you don't want your sound to always heard in like 2D space, but instead be localized in your Soundscape, you still need to use the attenuation. This is an important detail, I think. And last but not least, we have this open landscape, which is this section in between. When you go from here to when you first see this shelter and go from the crash site over there. And this part was very important to set up for me because on this open landscape, we not only have whole new sounds in our Soundscape module. Let's open this. For example, we have ice breaking sounds that are coming from distance. We have ice crackling, and more importantly, we have like this white owl. Again, in here, lots of variation. And let's also check one of the ice breaks. Yeah, for me, in addition to like the obvious pitch shift in this, I really wanted these to have kind of like an open space or reverberation that's like kind of like a resonance, and that is why I used an audio gameplay volume here. Again, I'm not going to go into detail of audio gameplay volume setups here, but basically I was able to send it to a specific reverb setting, and I used the convolution reverb here, and so that's why when you're using Soundscape, you can also, since you can actually change the state by triggering with the overlap conditions, you can send part of your soundscape to different kind of effects and submixes, etc. And this is what I did here. So now let's take a look at this one. Let's take a look at that switch. I'm trying to decide where to put my character. I think this is here. And snap object view. So let's see. So one important thing about the soundscape here, since I created a base layer that plays everywhere, which was also intentional to have it here. So in this case, I am actually able to use occlusion and correctly to the basically put the sounds, like put the soundscape around this small shelter, like this building. And that's also because instead of putting another trigger, another gameplay volume here, I kept using my baseline soundscape because the condition is set to play everywhere. So it was also playing here. And the second I get out of the collider for the landscape, where it changes the state to the landscape, which is here, it basically goes back to only playing what is the default. And the default in this case, again, our base layer. And when I go inside, so I can still hear those two like wind and snow sounds, even from inside, with the amount of occlusion that I want to apply to it. So yeah, aside from that, there are obviously like one-shots that I'm going to talk about in another video. But this is, I think, the gist of setting up Soundscape and how you can use it in different ways. Like just, for example, on the crash side, I wanted to add some metal grinding sounds, but since I do not have any animation set, because this is a level I designed as an audio person with kit bashing, and I wanted those sounds to come from like an invisible places, like around you. So that's why I chose to just add another soundscape state on top of my base state, for example. And yeah, hope you found this video enjoyable and informative. And thank you so much for watching.